Welcome to another edition of All Things Cyber with Dr. Dave Martin. What I'd like to do in this episode of All Things Cyber is take a look at this idea of defense in depth. It's a very crucial term for cybersecurity, and I'd like to take a look at it in terms of something we normally don't think about day in and day out, but it's very important, and that is industrial control systems. What are industrial control systems? Industrial control systems are those systems that we use every day and we take them for granted, like electrical power grids, water systems, heating and cooling systems, things that our lives depend on, but again, we take for granted. Well, as we are beginning to hook more and more of these systems up to the internet, it's important that we have a strategy of defense in depth, as much as we normally do with information technology. Now, as opposed to information technology, for industrial control systems, we often refer to operational technology because the technology, the control systems are used to control machinery rather than office automation products. Now, this is still very important. We have to take a look at the capability and the opportunity for attackers to attack us, our control systems. And unfortunately, because operational technology is thought of in terms of just getting things to work, the vendors of control systems for our industrial control systems have not been traditionally really focused on cybersecurity. But what we have to do is, just like with information technology, we have to put this entire defense in-depth process. But now we have to look at the operations of industrial control systems, the personnel, and the technology that's used. Typically, that the technology and the personnel are actually two of the weak links. Why? Because personnel are taught to just get things done and not worry too much about this thing called cybersecurity. And the technology, again, the technology is put in place just to make sure that the control systems will control the sensors, the valves, those kind of things. And there isn't a whole lot, or at least traditionally, there hasn't been a whole lot of attention paid to the cybersecurity aspect of industrial control system operations. Well, that's changing. What we have to do, just like we do in information technology, with industrial control systems and operational technology, we have to look at physical controls, perimeter defenses and monitoring, internal defenses, policies and procedures, training, situational awareness, and supply chain security. Why do we stress physical controls and perimeter defenses and monitoring? Because many of these systems, again, are unsecure, and physical access means control of the system. I've gone into situations where I've seen screens that are wide open cannot be, even the screen monitor cannot be password protected because they weren't designed that way. And if you try and put a password on the screen, what happens is you'll disrupt the system. It seems kind of, for someone that's in the security world, that seems kind of really strange, but that's the way these systems were designed. The other thing that we have to take a really hard look at in industrial control systems is, again, in the operations, is the personnel. The personnel in industrial control systems operations typically have not been trained or even given situational awareness of the need for cybersecurity. I am often fond of talking to the managers and leaders in industrial control systems operations about this need for, the term I'm looking for is for socialization. That's the term I'm looking for. The operators need to be socialized in this whole area of cybersecurity. And the last thing I want to talk about real quickly is this idea of supply chain security. You can't assume that the equipment, the computer equipment that you're buying for your industrial control systems is safe and secure. There are many companies that are interested in taking cost-cutting measures, and that means buying items from China. Not to knock China's items, but when it comes to industrial control systems and it comes to our grid, our power grid, and our water supply, and the heating and controlling of some of our critical buildings, are you willing to trust equipment that was made in communist China or Russia or a terrorist-sponsored country? Well, I certainly am not. So we have to look at supply chain security. So just wrapping up real quick, defense in depth in terms of cybersecurity and industrial control operations, as with information technology, is a holistic approach to make sure that we have the most secure industrial control systems that are operating our electrical systems, our water systems, and our key critical infrastructure, and to protect us from the catastrophic loss, not only economic, but perhaps even disastrous effects of things like a bad water supply or an extended blackouts, etc. Well, that's all I got for you today. We'll tune in again next time and we'll talk about all things cyber. I'm Dr. Dave Martin. See you then.